Welcome to the Bernard Lee Poker Show. We are continuing our coverage of the 2021 WSOP. We're fortunate to have on many winners, including Phil Hellmuth, over the last several weeks. But this gentleman continued the trend of people winning 2 bracelets in 1 year. He's the first person in 2021 to have done that. Josh Aryeh has done it as well, but he initially won the 10K 7-card stud championship for almost $183,000, and then just shortly thereafter won the $1,500 horse event for about $160,000 as well. But this isn't his first 2 bracelets. He has 2 other bracelets as well, winning the $25,000 high roller PLO event in 2015 and also the $1,500 pot limit Omaha high low 8 or better in 2019. And to top it all off, he was also WPT Player of the Year during its season 13. Needless to say, this gentleman is one of the superstars in poker. Glad to have him back on the show, Anthony Zinno. Anthony, thanks for joining us here on the Bernard Lee Poker Show, my friend.
My pleasure, Bernie. Thanks for having me.
It is so great to see so many players back at the World Series. You know, it was summer camp again. Everyone came back after these 2 years of, unfortunately, with the COVID pandemic. For you, during this COVID pandemic, were you working on your game? Were you able to really kind of, pick apart some aspects of your game and really bring that and maybe led to your success this year?
Yeah, it's funny. I actually really enjoy online poker a lot, more than people know, because I was playing online 2003. I had finished my undergraduate degree and saw like a commercial for Ultimate Bet or something and started playing with play chips and loving it. And I've played online poker ever since then, and anywhere I could find some to play in my downtime,
Yeah.
So COVID gave a lot of downtime. So I found some sites to play on, whatever I was invited to play here and there, whatever sites. A lot of WSOP.com here in Nevada.
Yeah.
Kind of fun. Obviously, I wish there were more cash game availability, particularly like kind of like mid-stake stuff, like 30-60 mixed games would be nice. Hopefully we can get back there in the future if there's more online US poker regulation.
Right.
But yeah, I did a lot of playing and thinking about the game, and my own version of studying without it being specifically solvers. I mean, there aren't even solvers for a lot of these mixed games. Whether it be watching final tables or otherwise. But yeah, worked a lot of my games, and my goal has always been, my goal since I started playing all the games, which is around 2012 and 13, I started playing all of the games more.
Mm-hmm.
My goal has been to try to get, say, 5 to 10% better at each game per year, right? Something like that. So like, over the years, you just keep getting better and see where that takes me. So it's been working well. So, it's pretty cool. I've got each bracelet is a different game. That's kind of cool.
Right. I was just about to say that each one is a different discipline.
Yeah.
And so obviously it shows the breadth of your knowledge. Are you comfortable enough we just had Adam Friedman on a couple of weeks ago as well. Obviously 10K dealer's choice champion for 3 consecutive times. Can't say years because unfortunately 2020 there wasn't a year, but that one has 20 different games, some of them even slightly unusual, the Badusi, the Badasis, the Big O's, etc. Do you feel comfortable in all 20 games, or are you more the horse kind of focus on and broadening out just a little bit more than that?
That's a good question. I feel comfortable, but I definitely know that I'm weaker in some of the games like Badusi than I am in, say, stud. I've gotten what I'd say is good at stud, and my Badusi and Badesi in those games, I'm just I think I'm just okay or whatever. Speaking of Adam, I have to say that Adam's feat is, I think, the best poker feat that I've ever seen. Now that's obviously like everyone has their opinions. They could say winning back-to-back WPTs is amazing, and multiple bracelets in a series, and whatever else. Like the run that Michael Adamo has been on, things like that are incredible. The run that Justin Bonomo had a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
I mean,
Jason Mercier about 5 years ago or so.
Mercier, yeah, I mean, he's the man. But Adam's feat winning the same difficult tournament 3 years in a row. Is that right? Was it 3 years in a row?
Yeah, it just unfortunately there was no 2020.
COVID,
but 2018, 19, and 21.
That
so
is
3 consecutive times. Yeah.
Yeah, that has to be, as a math nerd, I can tell you that is, I mean, if he were to have gotten odds on that prior to doing it, can you imagine the odds?
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
exactly.
it's just not so. That's the best, the most amazing, impressive feat that I've ever seen, and I'm a big fan of Adam. He makes me laugh, and he's a very good mixed game player, and I mean, he's a sharp poker player, so he's not like it's not like I'm gonna run him over in no limit hold'em. He's not gonna want to play much no limit hold'em with me if he can avoid it. But like he's a good poker player. So,
right. And like you said, I mean, there's been a lot of debate back and forth with regards to it. Focusing on the WSOP is the first time ever that somebody has won 3 consecutive times the same event. And I again, people have debated all where it puts in, but I would argue that it has to be in the top 10, and I would probably say top 5 achievements ever in the WSOP history. It's pretty amazing. This isn't just a normal event. This is 10K dealer's choice, 20 games against against a field. Yes, they're small fields, but they're literally against the best players in the world, and it's an incredible achievement to win it back to back. Forget 3 times. It's pretty amazing. So
I actually I think it is number 1 feat, because I mean dealer's choice. It's not like there are games that have a lot of high variance within them. So like Adam has to know how to navigate through those games, right? Like he knows that his stronger games versus the field are the Badusi and the Bidasis and the stud, right? But like other players are picking PLO and stuff. So for Adam's ability to navigate those games and maintain pot control and otherwise, I would actually wager that I would bet my house that no one is ever going to win the same tournament 3 series in a row ever again. In the history of the World Series, 100 years from now, you'll never see it again, ever. Ever.
Yeah.
The same event. I mean, you're talking like one in it's got to be in the millions to win 3 in a row. It's crazy. So
and like you said, what's the interesting thing is that, and we talked about this with him, and I've talked about it a lot. I talked with Mizrahi as well. Is that what's interesting is you could be really good at a game, but other people are as good. For example, for yourself, no limit hold'em. If you put it from 0 to 10, let's say you're at 9.5, but everyone else's average is maybe like 8.2.
Yeah.
But his Badusi may be an 8.5, but everyone else's Badusi is like a 4. And so his advantage is so much bigger. It may not be as knowledgeable in that game compared to another game. Still, he's probably one of the most knowledgeable, but you see what I'm saying? Like that gap is so big, and that's a huge advantage. And so it's not about choosing the game that you are best in, but it's choosing the game that you have the biggest advantage in. And you really have to recognize that and all that. But interesting.
Yeah. And to your point, it's just so hard to have that wide of a skill gap in 2021 in any game, right? Presumably, like people have the average just gets better every year in every game, right? So, like I used to have a very large skill edge in, say, PLO over the field, like considerably wide, say 6-7 years ago, and that edge has narrowed some over the years because players simply get better, obviously. So
100%.
Yeah, for Adam to pull this off, I mean, to win 2 in a row is like, all right, that's amazing. But 3 in a row is just like, what the hell? I mean, sometimes it's almost like the universe is throwing a cosmic gag of sorts, right? Kind of like, haha, look at this. Try to figure this one out, everyone.
Exactly.
You know?
Let's talk about your games, though, right? Of course, especially this year, you win the 7 stud, you win the horse. Before we get to those specific ones, I saw on Twitter, and I was trying to find exactly who had Twittered it out, but they had said they saw you right before the World Series, and they asked you, how do you feel? Was it Ryan Leng? Oh, that's right. Yeah. And he had asked you, what do you what's the goal? And without missing a beat, you're like, I won WSOP Player of the Year. No exaggeration, no nothing. This is just what you said. How important is it for you? Is this really, the ultimate goal for you to win it?
I wouldn't say that it's like, I'll be like devastated or whatever if I don't, because I understand how hard it is to do, because it just is what it is as far as people pulling some wins and things. But that was my goal, so it's funny. Yeah, I bumped into Ryan. I had gone to the Rio the night before the 25K horse, so before even the employees event or whatever, to go do my COVID stuff.
Yep.
And saw him in the hallway, and he's like, "Hey, buddy," I think he was doing some sort of fantasy stuff. He's like, "How, you're gonna play a lot this series?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm actually gonna get Player of the Year," like with a straight face,
Yeah.
And he's like, haha. And I'm like, no, really, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna pull it off this series, because I've been coming close the past few series. And then one of my group chats, I said, hey guys, if you can get a chance to go bet on me for POY this series and get some good odds, go ahead and bet it. So when I won the second bracelet, a friend of mine, Alex Rocha, in the group chat, he did the sticky tag on the tweet on the message. Whatever you call it, where you tag it. So we got a kick out of that. But yeah, it's very important to me too. The most important thing for me is always make sure I'm playing my A game. A game. In fact, I made a mistake last week in the PLO 8 10K on day 2. I had a lot of chips, and I don't like the way I played a hand. And it's whatever. The spot doesn't matter much, but the thing is, I still go really, really hard on myself when I make mistakes. So as a result of that, going hard on myself, I don't like that feeling. So my primary goal is to play my best and try not to make mistakes that emotionally hit me. But yeah, beyond playing my best and putting some results on the board, the POY would just be awesome, because it's sort of been a thing that I've been dreaming of getting, because I did get the World Poker Tour one. Right. So to get the WSOP one also would just be like, oh man, this is what a feeling that would be. But as I said, it was like an interview with me, like subsequent to my 2 bracelet wins about 2 weeks ago, and I was obviously far ahead. And I said, but anybody can come from behind and pull magic as well. And it could even be someone you never heard of. They just randomly win like 3 no limit bracelets or whatever. You just never know. It just happens. So in this case, we have a close. We have Arya kicking some ass out there, and Jake Schwartz has been doing well with a bunch of FTs, and of course Helmuth, and even guys like the guys that they haven't been having the best series, like far below their expectations, like Daniel.
Right, and he's top 10. He's top 10.
And the thing is that with POI, when you've got like a bunch of high rollers that are like in about 10 days, like a 50K PLO, 50K no limit, 100K no limit, and a 250K no limit.
250,
which I'll never play a 250K no limit unless all of a sudden, a bunch of whales were all of a sudden like, hey, we really want to get you in this tournament. I mean, that's crazy buy-in level for me. So I mean, I have to sell action for playing the 50K. Speaking of that, I've got some action for sale up on the Stake Kings and the U Stake for the 50K PLO at face. I figure for selling for a 50K should pretty much always be at face, in my opinion. But anyway, so we'll see. Maybe I can. But the thing is that you got the guys like Helmuth and Daniel. They've got a slight edge versus me for the ability to get POI points, because they can play those buy-ins comfortably, or whatever they can play. like I'm not gonna. I don't think I'm gonna play. I'm not gonna play the 100K unless some magic happens the next week or whatever. So
Right.
yeah,
Well, the
interesting.
irony is that the person you bumped into, Ryan Leng, he's doing very well also.
Yes.
And it's just really a dogfight right now. I mean, really,
Yeah.
as us doing this interview, which is during the World Series main event, right at the beginning of the World Series main event, you have 6 players, including Phil Hellmuth, that are all within about 115 points of each other, and that's literally just a solid finish, right? I don't even think it's a final table. It's just a solid finish. And now you're just going to leapfrog all of these players. And as we mentioned, Daniel, who's in 10th, he's basically a deep final table away from leapfrogging all of you guys too. So it is really, I mean, with this many tournaments, there's still about 20, 22 tournaments still left to go. It's anyone's race. And like you said, there could be somebody who's not even in the top 10 right now who could easily just, catapult from there. I mean, Jeremy Osmus, who won the first technical bracelet of the year, even though it was a third bracelet, it was the first one to finish. He's in 13th, but he's still only about 800 points off. So you just don't know. And Dylan Lind, I mean, those are the players that could just come out of left field and, like you said, win final table, the main event. And it's like, whoa, wait a second, what happened? So
Sean Deeb busted the main event, but he could just go win whatever, the 10K Raz or something or whatever.
It's almost maybe a potential advantage if you think about it, because the main event is going to last how long? And it's going to take you out of all these other events, right?
Yeah.
So, like,
Good
if
point.
you don't play the main event and get deep, oh yes, you lost the main event. Don't get me wrong. We know it's the Mac Daddy of them all, but now you have a shot to, and all the other bracelet events are 2-3 days, right? And so now you have a shot of what you could play in the main event, and let's say finish 270th, which will get you some points. But instead, you play 3 events in final table, 2 of them. It's a huge advantage, right? Huge. So, weird scenarios that you obviously have to think about for the whole thing.
It's fun though. It's a good problem to have.
I'm sure. For you, what do you enjoy more? Do you enjoy more the mixed games? I mean, you're obviously extremely proficient in No Limit Hold'em, as shown by winning POY for WPT. I mean, WPT has no mixed game main events. They're obviously all no limit. But do you enjoy the no limits? Do you enjoy the mixed games? Is it you play the mixed games because then you don't get bored? Like what do you, obviously you love PLO as well. So what really excites you? Is it really the lineup that you're playing against? Is it the game? Is it just that time of month that you're like, oh, you know what, this month I really am enjoying deuce to 7, whatever. I mean, how do you kind of choose those games? Because you're so good at a lot of them.
Yeah, so no limit. The problem with no limit is that it can depend a lot. So with no limit, like for example, if it's like 10-handed no limit, then it's the only time playing live poker that I actually just simply don't want to be there.
Yeah.
I don't think that 10-handed poker should ever be a thing, and that's still been a thing. Obviously, they have to do what they have to do. So like that's an example of me playing No Limit Hold'em and really just not enjoying it. Also, I played the 50K No Limit, thanks to a lot of investors, and I made 12th place. I cashed, but there's no shot clock during the World Series in any tournament. I don't know if they're going to pull it out for the 100K or whatever, but I don't think so. And that's a big problem. I've always been very vocal about, I think that they should have a situation where, first of all, clock calling should not have a stigma to it. It should be like, it's fine to call the clock. It's part of the game. It should be such that when you call the clock, the dealer immediately presses a little clock button, right. And the dealer has a responsibility to know that it's been enough time and make their best judgment and press the clock button. Now, in the case, some people say, well, no, it shouldn't be the dealer's decision as to whether it's been enough time to begin the shot clock. It should be a floor decision. No. In the case the dealer happens to press it too soon, then the players at the table can then call the floor and say, no, the dealer should have realized it hasn't been enough time yet, right? So having a dynamic where the dealer can quickly press the clock button would make the ebb and flow of No Limit Hold'em a lot better as you get deep. I mean, go and watch some of the hands of Bonomo versus Adamo, or otherwise in the 50K. And I mean, you're talking like, I mean, by the way, Michael Adamo, he's such a nice guy and everything. But I mean, man, sometimes he'll take so long to check. I'm talking like
Right.
tank, a minute, check, and it's like, so for that reason, the no limit has fallen behind on my enjoyment levels. Unfortunately, it can just really be hands can take 5 minutes or whatever. Whereas in the mixed games, you're playing rapid fire hands, so that's really fun. But I have to say that like there's no better feeling than being deep in a no limit hold'em tournament. There's still nothing like that. When you're like the final, I don't know, 18, and whether you have 10 big blinds or you have 100 big blinds, like it's just so fun. Of course, those tournaments tend to have the most money up top, right?
Right.
But there's nothing like it. I'll always say that that's the most fun, whether it be a WPT or whatever. I mean, it's the most fun. But from the get-go, though, it's mixed games, because right from hand one, the mixed games, we're laughing, having beers,
Right.
talking. Like there's not so much of that, like, ooh, I have to have a certain table image, and also I have to be making like heavy reads and things like that. Where in the mixed games play more of like as though you're playing like chess, where like they're not gonna physical reads don't matter. You're playing like a game of like strategy, right? No limit hold'em. The beauty of the game is that it's not only the strategy, but there's a lot of the projection of a certain image physically, and reading people and stuff. And that's what makes No Limit Hold'em the most pure poker games always. All those extra dynamics are wonderful, but man, sometimes a hand taking 5 minutes, it can just be like, so yeah. So overall, it's a good question, but I'd say that overall it's the mixed games on the early levels, and then No Limit Hold'em in the late stage, final table, etc. Yeah.
You obviously won the horse for your fourth bracelet and proficient in all of those games. Is there a game, and we're talking about No Limit, we talked about PLO. Is there a game right now that you don't feel as proficient at, but you're like, I'm really going to improve on this game and, add it to my arsenal, whether it's Badusi, Badesi, Big O, Deuce to Seven. Is there a game or two that you're like, I've been really working on this game?
Yeah, I'd say my a No Limit Deuce. I think I have the potential to be one of the better players in No Limit Deuce, which is a bold statement because
Let me win my bracelet in that first, and then you can be as good as you want. Okay. So I've
Buddy,
told
I'd be on your rail getting sloshed if you win a race. That would make me so happy. What a beautiful game that is.
It's my favorite. Ironically, my 3 final tables at the World Series have all come in that. That's
I didn't know that. Awesome.
Yeah, it's it's one of my favorite games. I really I think it's the purest game, and for better or worse, it just fits my style really well. It's basically, if you think about it, it's a pre-flop. I know it's not a flop, but a pre-flop game or pre-draw game, and then the river. That's really it, right? It's that and that, and like. To me, I think those are actually my 2 strengths in No Limit Hold'em, right? And so I've improved my post-flop play a ton over the last decade plus, because obviously it's so critical. But I think I've always been a really good pre-flop player, and I've always been a good, like, let's make the right bet on the river. And I think that's why this game fits me perfectly. I play position really well, et cetera, and finished runner-up a few years ago, and I still think about it every day.
Yeah, No Limit Deuce and 5-card draw, No Limit single draw, high. They're wonderful games. I mean, you can basically, whenever there's a game where you can literally turn complete air into a profitable, like you can just represent whatever you want. It really can be fun. Like in No Limit Hold'em, it's a little more difficult to just kind of like, credibly rep aces often or whatever. But like in No Limit Deuce, you can do all kinds of fun stuff, like draw 1 and rep that you have a 7 or whatever you want to do. But damn, what was I going to say about those games? No Limit Deuce. Anyway, they're fun because there's so much thinking. Oh, actually, funny thing, I thought about No Limit Deuce more, and I think that one thing that would be cool, probably would never happen, but as a tournament addition to the game. So the game is wonderful, but unfortunately, there's always every now and then where you both get dealt a pat monster, and you have to get it in, pre-flop, right? And one guy is dead, right?
Right.
So I think that a cool addition to the game would be where if in these situations where it ends up being a heads up, all in, pat,
Right.
specific to heads up, all in, pat, I think there should be a rule where the guy that loses that hand, guy or gal that loses that hand, should get only have to get halved and keep half their chips. Yeah, I think that'd be fun because like the game is like it's so great, but then every now and then it's like you get dealt up on pat 9 and they get like a better like a 9 perfect or whatever,
Right,
and then you
right,
just
right.
like you lose like 60 big blinds because you're not gonna
Sure.
you're not gonna break, you're not gonna. So anyway, like there could be some fun additions to make the game a little bit less crazy in those spots. But anyway, overall,
I actually have said I've mentioned this to Jack. I actually said it to Phil during my interview, and he loved the idea. But to me, people play no limit deuce because they see no limit. They don't even know what the hell the game is, but they see no limit. And I have said to Jack a couple times, if you want to increase the number of players who are going to play deuce, make a 7-handed, half no limit hold'em, half deuce to 7 no limit.
Oh yeah.
You would instantly increase the field for the deuce to 7 by about 100 people. Instantly, because people would like just fall in love with the game and be like, I want to play this just deuce to 7 alone. Forget the half. He did it.
Actually,
he made it a big bet game where he added PLO. He took my idea and added PLO. But the reason why I don't like that is I'm one person exactly like this. Now I love deuce, so it doesn't matter. But I don't know PLO well enough for me to be able to put myself in there and say, oh, well, I'll add PLO. Right. And I think that's going to scare the people. No limit hold'em, 98% of the players in the world play no limit hold'em, right? And that's what that's their game. So if you just say that and deuce to 7 no limit, I think you're good. I think that tournament alone would have about 1,000 people.
That'd be a great. In fact, I think somebody like, I don't remember who tweeted it, like Remco or someone tweeted, maybe it was Chad from Poker News. Somebody tweeted like, hey, what would be like your dream tournament to be added to the schedule? Like a realistic one.
I think, and I'll find the tweet and I think that to me, $1,500 deuce to 7. No deuce to 7 and no limit hold'em 7-handed because you could have it 7-handed, right?
Yes. Oh man.
And
oh, what a,
I think it'd be great. I think it'd be phenomenal. I think it'd be
with
so
a shot with a shot clock.
Sure.
No,
I mean,
actually, I think Darren Elias in response to the tweet. So if you want to find the tweet, go look at Darren's Twitter and go find his responses. He tweeted, I think that very thing. I think he wanted a no limit deuce / no limit hold'em. That was his response.
I mean, I've mentioned it to Jack seriously for the last 5-6 years.
Yeah, that'd be a great event. We'll get it going for you.
I love it. Well, when we come back, we're going to talk more with Anthony about his 2 bracelet wins as we continue our coverage of the 2021 WSOP here on the Bernard Lee Poker Show.